David. Let's go, T. Come on, David. DJ.
Guys,
give him another one.
I'm excited to be able to share with you guys this morning. I just want to get some things just out there real quick. This year is probably the year. My birthday is in March 26th. March 26th.
Yeah, March.
Born in 1984. This year was the first year where I realized that I'm getting up there. Getting up there in age. So much that you know you're getting up there in age when you forget how old you are. This year I had to think real hard to figure out how old am I going to be on my birthday this year. And I know there's some people that are even older than I am that may be rolling their eyes, but I'm just saying, I will be 34. 34, yes. Wait. When you get there, you understand those that are much older than me. I'm sorry, it just hit me this year. Guys, I became a Christian in 2006.
Wow, come on.
October 29th. This year would be 12 years as a Christian. And this week, there's whenever Joel asks me to preach, by default, I always reflect on my life for some reason. I'm about to have this big moment. I'm like, you guys have seen 8 Mile. It's my moment. I gotta prepare myself. And so this week I've been thinking about my life. Been thinking about all that I've gone through as a Christian and pre becoming a Christian. Mm-hmm. And I there's one word that came to mind when I thought about my life, and that is just miraculous. Miraculous. It's only by the grace of God that I'm standing before you this morning. Yeah. Just by pure statistics, there's no reason I should be up here this morning. And I know a lot of us, if not all of us, can say that about themselves as well. Parents are divorced, they're not together, but statistics show that I should be either in jail or in a gang or who knows what. Sadly to say, I know that this is predominant amongst in America and the world today. I dealt with sexual abuse as a child. According to those stats, I should not be here. According to those stats, realistically, I should be in an insane asylum. That hit me real hard when I thought about that. And when I was thinking about my life, that word came to mind, miraculous. God has done many miracles in my life, the fact that I'm here. And so when I thought about that, it made perfect sense of what I would want to share with you guys this morning. And that is simply miracles. I want to talk about miracles this morning. And to say use another word, I want to talk about the supernatural. A little sci-fi, not sci-fi, maybe a little sci-fi twist in there. I want to talk about the supernatural. The dictionary defines supernatural as of or relating to an order of existence beyond the visible, observable universe, especially of relating to God or a God, a demigod, or a spirit. And so it made perfect sense that this morning I want to talk about the supernatural. Okay. And so when I was going through the Bible and trying to pull out some insights on the supernatural, there's one book in particular that stood out to me, and that's the book of John. Okay. The book of John is very unique. Obviously, it's written by John, the disciple who was one of the disciples who was probably the closest to Jesus. Written around 42 AD. Some interesting facts about the book of John that I kind of realized is that half of the book is actually dedicated to the last three days of Jesus' life. The previous half is dedicated to the miraculous signs that Jesus performed. And so I wanted to go through some. I want to go through 7 miracles that Jesus performed, 6 of whom are specific to the book of John. And pull some insights. Because if there's one thing about Jesus that we all can agree on, is that Jesus was in the business of doing the supernatural. He was in the business of making the extraordinary seem ordinary, right? And so I thought we'd go over a couple of those things. There are over 879 verses describing just his last 24 hours on earth. Jesus was an incredible figure. It's so much that he did. When I was reading these scriptures, I'm like, man, what it would have been like to be on earth when Jesus was walking earth and seeing all these things. It would have blew my mind. And so I want to look at those miracles, guys. And so the title of my lesson this morning is Supernatural. Supernatural. And I thought we look at the very first miracle that Jesus performed. And it's only, you can only find it in the book of John, and that's when Jesus turned water into wine. Found in John chapter 2. Now, the funny thing is when I got married, I can totally relate to the scripture even more when I got married, planning a wedding and trying to just make it the best while on a budget. You think about things like, okay, like how much do we want to spend? Like how fancy do we want to make it? And I know Owen and Chester, living that out right now. But a lot goes into a wedding. Like it's a big deal, and it goes by like that. It goes by like that. Like we had so many people told us that, hey, when you're going to your wedding, like you just need to take a moment with your bride just to take it all in, because everything else is going to go by pretty quickly. There's so much going on. And needless to say, in this scripture, in this wedding, there's so much going on in this scripture. So turn with me to John chapter 2 and verse 1. Jesus was all about making the supernatural. In John chapter 2 and verse 1, the Bible reads, on the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, they have no more wine. Dear woman, why do you involve me? Jesus replied, my time has not yet come. His mother said to the servants, do whatever he tells you. Now, right off the bat, like I can imagine this scene, like if anybody has been married or Owen will find this out, there's a lot that could go wrong, like in a way. Like there's things that you're like always on the lookout for. And the funny thing is that they run out of wine. And they go to Jesus like, why are you involving me? Like I have nothing to do with the plan. Like this is not my wedding. Like why are you bothering me? My time has not yet come. I can totally relate to Jesus here in this moment. In verse 6, it says, nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars with water. So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet. They did so. And the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now. This, the first of his miraculous signs Jesus performed in Cana of Galilee, he thus revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him. Now, the title of this point is The Super is Natural when we take into account the little things that God does for us. Jesus here saves the best for last. And one of the things that's so important to remember in this scripture is that there were 6 stone water jars used for ceremonial washing. Now, there's so many parallels that we can draw from here. Here you have 6 jars that are used for ceremonial cleansing, a spiritual need, yet Jesus is about to use them to illustrate how he was getting ready to change things. Now, a lot of people would argue that this miracle, when you look at Jesus' resume, if you will, of miracles, a lot of people say this was probably like probably the lower totem, right? Like changing water to wine, like it's amazing. We can all agree. Yeah. But a lot of people say, okay, well that's probably not as impressive as the things that the rest of them did. Right, but it's a miracle indeed. And when I thought about this, I'm like, what miracles in our lives do we take for granted that we view as small, right? Just a simple fact of waking up, right? Like it's a miracle that we woke up today. There's so many people that didn't wake up today. Sadly, if we need any further proof, even early this week, the tragedy that happened in Florida. Right? I imagine those kids did not even think of the fact that they wouldn't make it through the day. There's so many little things, guys, that we take for granted. Just like these ceremonial jars, like they were used for ceremonial cleansing, and at this time, people have started to take for granted the fact that how important it was to be ceremonially clean. The fact that Jesus was going to use it to illustrate the fact that he's the best is saved for last with Jesus. And so one of the as I'm getting up there in years, one of the things I realized this year too is sadly, that no one knows when your number is going to get called. For instance, my father last year, some of you may know, my father found out he had colon cancer. So that was probably my dad. My dad was 17 when I was born, and my mother was 18. So my parents were fairly young, and so I never even thought about the fact that my parents were gonna be gone, because they're like they're not that old. And so when he told me that was probably the first time in my life where I thought about not having my parents around. And it got me to thinking about obviously my health, and things that I can do to prevent it. But it's got me to thinking like, wow, how often do I take for granted just the fact that I'm alive?
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'll wake up every day. And as Christians, I feel like this is something that we do often, that we take for granted the little miracles that God does in our lives by just simply waking up. That we just go to bed and just assume, hey, I'm just going to wake up tomorrow. And that we really don't take advantage of our days. There's a great scripture in the Bible, in Psalm chapter 90, if you want to go there. There's a ton of miracles that happen each and every day that we take for granted, guys.
Yeah.
So many things, man, that God reveals to us and does in our lives that we don't give Him the credit for and we don't even realize.
Yeah.
In Psalm 90, in verse 12, the Bible reads, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." The Bible is very clear, like, we need to number our days. We need to count our days. Like, we need to to make every day count. If we want to have wisdom, we need to make sure that we're not taking our days for granted. And I got to ask you, how's that going this week? Have you taken your days for granted?
Wow.
Have you just gotten up and just assumed that, hey, like today's going to go just as any other day? I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to go to sleep, and I'll do this on Tuesday, do this on Wednesday. The Bible says we need to make every day count. We need to really say, hey, like tomorrow is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
What would your relationship with God look like if you knew you weren't going to be here tomorrow? What would your relationships look like if you knew that you weren't going to be here tomorrow? I imagine that we give a little bit more of our hearts to each other. I imagine we spend a little more time intently looking into the scriptures. I imagine we spend a little more time pouring our hearts out to God if we knew that tomorrow we weren't going to be here. And that's what Jesus is trying to get across with this miracle, saving the best for last, realizing that people have started to take for granted their spirituality, started to take for granted their relationship with God.
Yeah.
And it takes Jesus to come in to get us to start thinking about our days. When we start taking for granted the little things, guys, in our lives, that's when it's time to worry. I want to challenge you guys. If there's things that you've taken for granted this year, maybe it's your relationships. Maybe it's your relationship with God. You started to take for granted the fact that you have the opportunity to open the Bible and really sit down and hear God's word. My challenge is you got to change that immediately. To not let the day go by where you can't say, hey, I've given my heart to God today.
Yeah.
I've given all that I have. Because tomorrow's not promised.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's not promised, guys. Jesus is calling us to really look intently and really make every day count. Let's go back to John chapter 4. So the first miracle is in the books, right? Like that's overdone with water to wine. And the thing is, the interesting thing is, this is when the disciples put their faith in Jesus, right? Turns water to wine, boom, they're in.
Yeah.
In John chapter 4, let's look at the next one. My second point, the super is natural when we take God at His word. In John chapter 4, Jesus returns to the scene of the first miracle in John chapter 4.
Come on, dude.
In verse 46. The Bible says, once more he visited Cana in Galilee, where he had turned the water into wine, and there was a certain royal official whose son lay sick in Capernaum. When this man heard that Jesus had arrived in Galilee from Judea, he went to him and begged him to come and heal his son, who was close to death. Unless you people see miraculous signs and wonders, Jesus told him, you will never believe. The royal official said, sir, come down before my child dies. Jesus replied, you may go, your son will live. The man took Jesus at his word and departed. While he was still on the way, his servants met him with the news that his boy was living. When he inquired as to the time when his son got better, they said to him, The fever left him yesterday at the 7th hour. Then the father realized that this was the exact time of which Jesus had said to him, your son will live. So he and all his household believed. Wow. This was the second miraculous sign that Jesus performed, having come from Judea to Galilee. Now, this story is so incredible because, one, the Bible doesn't mention where this guy, what nationality he was, not even his name, right?
Yeah.
John wants to make it perfectly clear that it does not matter where you come from. It does not matter what your background is. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like. All that matters is, are you going to take Jesus at his word? Are you going to say, hey, if the Bible says this, if Jesus is telling me one thing, am I going to take him at his word? There's this incredible book that I've been reading, but I haven't paid for it.
What?
But let me explain. Let me explain.
Help us out, bro.
This book, you're able to read a certain part of it, and then you have to pay for the rest.
Oh.
And so I've been reading it, and then I paid for it, so it's shipping here.
Oh,
but the book is about taking God at his word.
Come on.
It's about just, hey, if we simply just looked at the Bible, eliminated our preconceived notions, our interpretations of what the Bible is trying to say, and just literally just took the Bible at his word, our lives would be dramatically different.
Come on,
there's so many things that we don't take God at his word for, and we suffer for it. And here's a perfect example. This guy just took Jesus at his word. It's like, okay, your son, your boy live, and he goes and leaves. Imagine what our relationship with God would look like if we have the same heart. If we just said, hey, I'm just going to, today, whatever I read in the Bible, if the Bible's telling me something, I'm just going to take it as his word. Yeah. I'm not going to put my own spin into it. I'm not going to put my own, interpretation on it. I'm just going to take the Bible at his word. Yeah. God is only concerned with one thing, guys. Yeah. And it's our faith. Are we going to take him at his word? Yeah. Are we going to say, hey, I'm commanded to do one thing, I'm just going to do it. Yeah. I'm not going to do the alternate version of it. I'm not going to put my own spin on it. I'm just going to do it. There's a great scripture that one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is in John 14. And the more I read John, the more I realize that it's all about just Jesus' words and us focusing on what he's saying and just doing it. We often recommend reading the book of John to get faith, right? To understand God's heart, because it's all about what Jesus is saying and what he's doing, and us just to believe in it. In John chapter 14, in verse 1, Jesus says, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me." Jesus wants us to take him at his word, guys. Like, he just wants us to say, hey, the Bible's telling me one thing, I'm going to go and do it. Yeah. What has Jesus been telling you this week? Yeah. What has God been trying to get you to do this week, this month, this year? What has he been telling you? Right. And look at this guy's life, right? And whenever the Bible doesn't mention who someone is, leaves it nameless, I believe it means that we just need to put our own name into it. Put your own self in this situation, right? There's no opportunity for our minds to play tricks on us like, oh, that can't be me. Like, no. Put yourself in this situation. Look what happens when we take God at his word. Yeah. Imagine what your relationship with God will look like if you just took him at his word. Come on, says, don't let your hearts be troubled. I've overcome the world. Mm-hmm. Like, imagine what your life would be like if you just took God at his word, took Jesus at his word. How you been listening to him? You don't have to go there, but Luke 21, verse 33, the Bible says, heaven and earth will disappear, but my words will remain forever. Amen. God's word is all we have, guys. Yeah. Like, it's the thing that stands the test of time and will live on in eternity. It's God's word. Everything else will perish and fade away. True. Even more so, we should be listening to it and taking God as his word. And here's the crazy thing. For this guy, he took Jesus at his word, and Jesus is all about exceeding our expectations, right? Yeah. Not only did this guy, like, he in his mind, he's expecting, hey, I'm going to go home and my son is going to be well, right? Like, he himself has this expectation, but Jesus like, no, I'm going to exceed your expectation. Before you even get home, you're going to find out that your son is well. Like, God is all about exceeding those expectations. I'm pretty sure there's things that we've been thinking about, requests that we poured out to God, things that we would love to see God do in our lives. God wants to exceed those expectations. but he's waiting for us to take him at his word.
Yeah.
He's waiting for us to just say, you know what, this is going to happen. It's not a maybe, like this is going to happen. And look what happens with this guy. Before he even gets home, he finds out that God had answered his request.
Mm-hmm.
God is all about making the supernatural, but will we take him at his word?
Yeah.
There's a great quote in this book. The writer says, nowhere do Jesus or the apostles ever treat the Old Testament as human reflections on the divine. It is instead the voice of the Holy Spirit and God's own breath. And when I thought about it, I was like, right, like at this time we were reading, all the disciples, they just had the Old Testament, right?
Yeah.
But even when they never looked at the Old Testament as something, this abstract thing, they literally just took it, hey, this is the Word of God, right? And we see the impact that it had on their lives. And so how much more for us, guys? Like, I feel like a lot of times we see the Bible as something that's unrelatable, something that is like, it's too abstract for us to wrap our mind around. But when we just take the Bible at its word, our lives will be drastically different. Turn to me to Romans chapter 5. Romans chapter 5. There's I don't know if you guys have noticed, and I was debating on whether I wanted to talk about it. I don't know if you guys noticed, there's a wave of excitement going on about Black Panther. No, I've even seen people that I know, dressing up in, in their tribal gear, and I can't wait to see it. It's going to be impactful. As a kid that grew up loving Power Rangers and wanting to be the Black Ranger because this guy was African American, I felt like I could be the Black Ranger. To this day, I still think I could be. But I understand the importance of this movie, and I'm excited. But there's a scripture that I feel parallels what's going on right now. In Romans chapter 5, when we take the Bible at its word, this is what the Bible says. In Romans chapter 5,
Come on, David.
Come on, David.
Let's go, babe.
in verse 17, the Bible says, "For if by the trespass of one man death reigned through that one man, how much more would those who receive God's abundant provision of grace and of the gift of righteousness reign in life through one man, Jesus Christ?" Here Paul is saying, hey, in the same way that death reigned through sin, when we choose righteousness, when we choose to take God at his word, we will reign in life. In the sense, we will be kings and queens in life. And I thought about Black Panther when I read this. I'm like, it's all about, this king who's becoming king and his struggle to accept his place and establish his throne. And when I read this, I'm like, how often do we not view ourselves as kings and queens? Right. That's what we're called to view ourselves. Here, the Bible even says it. It's like, hey, if you've chosen to be righteous, chosen to follow Christ and become a Christian, it says you will reign in life. And reign in life means to be a king and queen. As God's children, we are royalty, guys. Do you view yourself as that? Right? Look at this movie and how it's inspiring people to view themselves as royalty, view themselves as something greater. Like as disciples, guys, that's how we should be feeling every day, right? That's how we should be carrying ourselves as kings and queens. Is that how you've been carrying yourself this week? If that hasn't been your demeanor, you haven't taken God at his word. Wow. You haven't taken the Bible as being true. My challenge for you guys is to spend time with God. I've been hearing that people have been challenged, been having trouble just having time with God this week. Probably even longer than this week. That they haven't been really spending time with the Lord each day and really looking intently into the Word and taking God at His word. Guys, when you look at any profession, whether you're going to be an athlete or a skilled profession, it takes years and years of study. It takes hours of time put in to be proficient. It is no different with our walk with God. If we want to be excellent Christians, if we want to be excellent in our relationship with God, we got to put the time in.
Right.
If you're not putting the time in each and every day to really look intently into God's word, you're not going to carry yourself as a king or queen. I want to challenge you, if you haven't been having time with God this week, if you haven't been every day looking into his word and seeing what God has to say to you, I challenge you to go every single day, have that awesome time with God, to spend at least an hour in the Bible, to spend at least an hour looking into God's word and seeing what he has to say to you. We need to be carrying ourselves as kings and queens, God. There's no excuse for this.
Come on, David.
We need to take God at his word. So let's keep going. I digress. Let's go back to John chapter 5. And so,
Come on, David.
Just so you guys know, so after I see this movie, you might see some crazy social media posts.
Yep.
Yeah.
It might be a little emotional, but we need to be fired up for God. Even more so.
It's true.
In John chapter 5, in verse 1, the point is the super is natural when we realize how much we need Jesus. In John chapter 5, verse 1, the Bible reads, sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for a feast of the Jews. Now there in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethsaida, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, do you want to get well? Sir, the invalid replied, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me.
Oh, no.
Then Jesus said to him, get up, pick up your mat and walk. At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. The day on which this took place was a Sabbath. Now, this is an interesting story that's going on. And when I look at this, and I've read this story a couple times and pulled out a couple of insights here and there. But as I was reading this, I forgot that on this face value, it seemed like this guy was just making excuses maybe. That he had this opportunity to get well, but he wasn't taking advantage. But when I did some digging, the whole story behind this pool was that there's a belief that an angel would dip down and stir the waters, and when the water was stirred, that was the time to get in and be healed of whatever was ailing him.
Wow.
And so there's a moment that this guy was waiting for, right, when the waters were to be stirred, and so he could get in. But when that moment came, he was unable to. And the reason he gives is that there's no one to help. There's no one to help him. And I thought about, in my life, particularly before I became a Christian, I was looking for help. I was struggling in life. I was battling with depression, and I was looking for something to change. Right? I was praying. I was trying to try sports, or I was even reading self-help books and all kinds of things. And when I read this story, I thought about that time in my life. And one of the things that I realized is that this guy for 38 years had been attempting to get well.
Come on.
And it wasn't until he had that interaction with Jesus that things changed.
True.
And a lot of times we can think that, hey, I need that interaction with Jesus to get well. But no, it's actually we need to realize how much we need Jesus.
Yeah.
This story highlights how much this guy needed Jesus' help. He needed help, and he had things that was going on, but he needed Jesus specifically.
Yeah.
And a lot of times there's things that we're all struggling with. There's things that we're waiting to change in our lives, sin that we may be dealing with. But it isn't until we realize how much we need God that things change. This guy had his interaction with Jesus. And it wasn't until then that things changed. There's a quote from Pierre Corneille that says, "Death was to be my glory, but destiny had refused it." And the crazy thing is about this guy, I read the story and I'm like, man, 38 years, that's a long time to be struggling, right? I look at a year and I'm like, man, I feel like that's a long time.
Yeah.
It's like 38 years, right? But God had a plan for this guy, and for us, the lesson we take from this is that we need to realize how much we really need Jesus daily. We often try to find our own avenues to get help, to try different things to kind of get over things, but it isn't until we realize how much we need Jesus that things really start to change. It's not a matter of what you claim to know about God or Jesus. It matters whether you know Him. And the crazy thing is we're about to see an amazing miracle today happen. Jonathan, he realizes how much he needs Jesus, right? And he's about to go through an awesome experience of becoming a true Christian, a true disciple.
Yeah, come on.
But the journey doesn't stop there. We're daily called to constantly remember how much we need Jesus. I pray that we haven't forgotten that, guys. That we haven't forgotten how much we need Jesus daily in order to get well. Let's keep going in John chapter 9.
Come on.
Come on, David.
John chapter 9.
Go, David.
Jesus was all about making the supernatural. In John chapter 9, verse 1, it says, as he went along, he saw a man from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Now, right off the bat, like the disciples are already like thinking, like, all right, something. He must have did something wrong, right? Like, there's something that's going on why this guy was born blind. And when I read this, I'm like, that can be a real like crazy way to come at what's going on. But when I did some digging into the scriptures, guys, like there's no one that had been recorded being cured of blindness at this time. And so this was a very odd occurrence of someone, being born blind. So there's like something must have happened for this guy to be born blind. In verse 4, he says, neither this man's parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the work of God might be displayed in his life. As long as it is day, we must do the work of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Having said this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. Go, he told him, wash in the pool of Siloam. This word means sent. So the man went and washed and came home seeing. Now, the crazy thing is, as I said, this hadn't happened before, right? Someone being cured of being blind. And if you read the story of what happens after this, it's a pretty funny story of the Pharisees, the teachers of the law at this time, trying to figure out what's going on. Like, how did this guy get cured of his being blind? They go to the parents. They go to the guy himself. And he's like, I don't even know what happened. All I know is that I was blind and now I can see. God is all about doing the impossible, right? Like that's when God truly shines. When all seems lost, when all seems hopeless, God shines. And I know us, the Seattle church, we have a task ahead of us in May with special missions, right? We're striving to raise money to send to our brothers and sisters in these other countries around the world that don't have access to the opportunities to have the type of income that we do. And we're going to help them to help spread the gospel in these other countries. But I'm gonna keep it real. Like whenever special missions come, like I have to get my heart right. Like it's challenging. I don't come from like a wealthy background. I'm still not wealthy. Don't make a lot of money. I just recently started this job at this organization called the Prosperity Agenda. And I love it. They're all about working with organizations that help people get out of poverty. And when I'm working out, I'm like, man, like I was in this situation. Like people they're trying to help, like, that was me, like not too long ago. And it's so when special mission comes around, like I have to go through the process of making sure my heart is right and that I'm getting behind what's going on. The task is big, guys. We're trying to do what has been done. We're trying to spread the word around the world. But that means that we have to get our hearts right. We have to really go to God and allow Him to do the miraculous. In the same way that happened with this individual, a miracle needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Will we trust God to do the miracle? This mission is 13 weeks away. Do you have a plan?
Wow.
Right? Do you have a plan in place to make it happen?
Come on, bro.
Are you preparing? Are you preparing to see a miracle done? Jesus is all about doing the miraculous, but we have to make sure that we're doing all that we can. Amen?
Amen.
All right, let's keep going to John chapter 11.
Okay.
Come on.
In John chapter 11, and verse 38. Jesus is all about making the supernatural.
Yeah, sure.
In John chapter 11, verse 38, the Bible reads, Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. Take away the stone, he said. But Lord, said Martha, the sister of the dead man, by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days. Then Jesus said, did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I know that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me. When he had said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to him, take off the grave clothes and let him go. This story is so trippy. I can't even imagine what my reaction would be like in this moment. Here we have a situation that for all intents and purposes looks hopeless. Right? The guy is dead. Lazarus is dead. He's not only dead, but he's in a tomb. Right? There was a lot of hopelessness in the air.
Yeah.
But again, when our hope is lost, that's when God can really do his work.
Yeah.
And I thought about the areas of my life maybe that I've lost hope in. Right? Even this past year, there's a lot of things going on with my family, right? A lot of just challenging things, and I found myself beginning to lose hope that things will change. I began to see like the challenges for what they were, Sally, and lost faith. And when I read this, I'm like, you know what, like God can do anything.
Yeah.
Like, who am I to look at these situations and start to feel hopeless?
Right.
This is probably one of the most challenging situations you can probably find yourself in. Someone that you love and know is passed away.
Right.
And yet this is when Jesus shows his power. In John 11 verse 25, you don't have to turn there. It says, Jesus said to her, I'm the resurrection of life. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. And whoever lives, believes in me, will never die.
Yeah.
Do you believe this?
Nice.
Jesus is always asking us this question, right? Do we believe what he says?
Mm-hmm.
Do we believe in what the Bible says? When I thought about the challenging time, when my faith was low, there's a lot of times when I would ask myself this question, man, do I believe what the Bible is telling me? Do I believe what Jesus says? And I don't know about you, maybe you're going through a challenging time right now, maybe your faith isn't as low, but I want to encourage you that Jesus is always right there with us, ready to do his thing.
Yeah.
He's ready to do his thing, and he's asking us, do you believe me? Do you believe that this situation can change? God is always, he's just waiting for us. He's waiting for us to answer.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage you, maybe if you're going through that challenging time, to really talk to the person that invited you out. Study the Bible. Sometimes we just need the Bible open to us to be shown what God is trying to tell us. Because sometimes we can't see it ourselves, right? We need someone to really just open up and show us, right?
Right.
Study the Bible. Find out what God is telling you so that you can have hope and see a miracle done. Amen?
Amen.
Now let's bring it on home. The next miraculous sign is in John 21. So,
Come on, bro.
Jesus had came, he had given up his life, been crucified. We all know the story about how his disciples deserted him, right?
Yeah.
The guys that he spent 3 years just building a great relationship with, teaching them, they all desert him, right? I can't even imagine how that would feel. But they all leave him. In John chapter 21, in verse 1, says, afterward Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. It happened this way. Simon Peter Thomas called Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other disciples were together. I'm going out to fish, Simon Peter told them, and they said, we'll go with you. So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? No, they answered. He said, throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some. When they did, they weren't able to haul the net because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. As soon as Simon Peter heard him say, it is the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had it taken off, and jumped into the water. The other disciples followed him in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from the shore, about 100 yards. When they landed, they saw the fire of burning coals there with fish on it and some bread. Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish you have just caught. Simon Peter climbed aboard and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. None of the disciples dared ask him, who are you? They knew it was the Lord. Jesus came, took bread, and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the 3rd time Jesus appeared to the disciples after he raised from the dead.
Wow.
And here Jesus, he does another miracle in the lives of his disciples. And the point I got out of this is Jesus makes us supernatural even when we have failed.
Yeah.
Even when we fall short in our walk with God. Here, Simon, he disowns Jesus 3 times, right? Not only 3 times, but to a little girl, right? A little girl asks him, and he chickens out. Imagine how Simon is feeling at this point, right? He had this guy that he spent 3 years. Imagine spending 3 years every single day with someone, building a great friendship, and you just deny him, disown him. Imagine what he's going through right now. He's obviously, in a state of depression, right? Just sad, going back to his old life of being a fisherman. Imagine how he was feeling. But yet, Jesus still shows a miracle in his life, showing that, hey, he still believes in him. He still has a plan for him. And this has got to be encouragement for us, right? Like, if someone who can, disown Jesus after spending 3 years from him, walk with him, Jesus welcomes them back with open arms. It's the same for us, right? When we fall short, Jesus is waiting there with open arms, ready to welcome us back in. And in Psalm 40, you don't have to go there, you write it down. Psalm 40, verse 2. The Bible reads, it says, he drew me from the pit of destruction, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon a rock, making my steps secure. He put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise to our God. Many will see and fear and put their trust in the Lord. God is all about reconciliation, guys. He's all about, mending, what was once broken. And specifically in relationships. Here, we see the story of Jesus mending the relationship, reconciling himself, Peter to himself. And it's the same thing with us. Like, a lot of us need to be just reconciled with God. To be reconciled in that relationship. And what's keeping us from doing it is that we feel like Jesus isn't there with his arms open. We feel like we're not maybe worthy of it. But here, we see countless times in the Bible, God is just waiting for us with open arms to be reconciled to him. Even when the times we feel like we failed. And I know my wife can attest. I failed many times in marriage. I failed many times just as a disciple, as a son. There's a lot of things that I've gotten wrong. Probably in this week, right? There's a lot of things that we fall short in. But the one thing that we can't forget is that no matter what we've done, Jesus is always there waiting with open arms to be reconciled. We just we have to take that step and be reconciled to him. Mm-hmm. So the challenge is, if you're feeling down, to get up, right? If you're feeling down, if you feel like you're falling short, to get up. It's as simple as that, getting up and being reconciled with Jesus. Obviously, the last miracle is one we all know, and is that Jesus raised him from the dead, right? And again, if that had happened, we would not be here. Right? There would be no reason for us to gather. And I I definitely appreciate Sister Gina sharing for
Yes.
communion.
Come on,
Because the spirit that we need to have when we take communion is the realization that Jesus died and raised from the dead, and we constantly need to reflect on that fact. There's one last scripture I want to leave you guys with this morning. John 21. So after this happens, in John 21, verse 22.
Come on, David.
Bible reads, Jesus answered, "If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me." Because of this, the rumor spread among the brothers that this disciple would not die. But Jesus did not say that he would not die. He only said, "If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you?" This is the disciple who testified to these things and who wrote them down. We know that his testimony is true.
Wow.
Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them were written down, I suppose that even the whole world would not have room for the books that would be written. I think too often we forget about this scripture here. We read the Gospels and we read the miracles and we're impacted and that's awesome, but we forget that Jesus did so much more that's not even written in the Bible.
True.
Like Jesus, like we get amazed at what we read and can look at it. It's like, wow, that's amazing. But Jesus, like, man, like that's nothing. Like there's plenty that it's not even written that I've done. The doing miraculous things was natural to Jesus.
Right.
And again, guys, if we're called to do even greater things than Jesus did. So in the same way that the miraculous was normal for Jesus, miracles, we need to expect miracles in our lives every single day.
Amen.
We need to expect to do great things. It encouraged me to think about what miraculous things will we see in 2018. All right, we're already going to witness a miracle today with Jonathan. What other miraculous things will we see?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a family member becoming a Christian.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that sin that's been dogging you since 2016, 2017. Maybe you're overcome that.
Yeah.
Maybe if you haven't been taking God at His word, He said that you start to really intently look at the Scripture and believe what the Bible is telling you.
Yeah.
With God, the supernatural is natural. Let's be men and women who witness the miraculous every day, who acknowledge the miraculous things God is doing in our lives each and every day. Let's be men and women who take God at His word, who look at the Bible and just, without putting our own judgment on it or spin on it, just take the Bible at His word. And I believe once we do that, the supernatural will be natural for us as well, guys. So I just want to encourage you guys with that. Let's have an amazing 2018. Let's continue to see great miracles done, and to God be the glory.
That was incredible. That was amazing. Let's give one more round of applause for him. When David said he was going to have a ton of nuggets, he really meant a ton of nuggets. There's literally so much I could draw from